Hello, everybody. Today is December 10th, and this is the OLM Dev Feature Planning meeting. On today's agenda, we are going to discuss a couple of items. The first one is a review or summary of the features that are going to be available in the 0.18 release of OLM. And then we will discuss some of the work that Evan's been doing in the operator scoping space. Kevin, you had mentioned that you wanted to lead the discussion around the 0.18 release. So would you like to pick that up?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things that I would like to go over. So I think one of the things that I want to talk about, even before we go over individual issues, is talk about cutting an 0.18 release. I think we are right on the edge of actually doing that. So let me share my screen quickly.
Could we also include the context of OPM here? Because OPM is tied to OLM.
Yeah, we definitely can do that. Sorry, give me 1 second. So, yeah, let me know when you guys can see it.
Looks good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I have not had a whole lot of time up front. So I, just before this meeting, was trying to get or at least as close to a state of reality as where we are in terms of the 0.18.0 milestone for OLM. I think we are still in the process of determining exactly what our process is for deciding how to cut releases, because trying to line up OLM and related operator firmware project releases with Cube releases. So I have pulled a few of our 0.18.0 milestones that don't appear like they're close or going to make it, given that Cube 120 just released, and I pushed them out to 0.19. So we have a couple of open RFEs there now. I think that one of the topics that we should probably come back to once we go through what we have in 0.18.0 is if there's anything on here that somebody feels very strongly we can't possibly cut a 0.18 release until those are done. But for now, I'm going to start by just taking a look at what's in 0.18.0. So there's one closed issue, which is tagged for 0.18.0. I think we can probably look through some of these and close them as well. So this is the secret propagation with catalog sources. And so basically, if you take a look, that has been merged. Oh, this is no, this is not the PR. Where is the PR? It's this one. So basically, we're now attaching secrets, reference and spec.secrets to the service account of the catalog source, so that the catalog source, that the namespace in the catalog source and OLM in that namespace should be able to pull index images that are referenced by that catalog source. So that is closed. I think the next one we should go over are some of these which are still listed as unresolved, but I think are actually done. So the Cube 120 bump is in progress. We haven't merged that yet, but I'm expecting that to merge before we cut an 18 release. This one, installed operators can expose a communication channel with OLM. I believe that is also merged now. I can see if I can find the pull request, but I believe we have some PRs that have merged related to that. Let's take a look. Yeah, so there's a couple of PRs here. So create operator condition. There's a new API we've implemented. this is OLM reconciling that upgradable condition based on that API existing. And then this is the override stuff that was included on top of that to ignore the condition when it happens for an installed operator. So any objections to me marking this solved?
So can you just give me a real brief update of that one? So that one, is that a new API we have to implement?
So this is an optional feature that is added to OLM. So we added a new API called operator condition. What this does is essentially, right now, it is essentially an API shim that allows an operator to write to that API in the event that it has something to tell OLM.
Right.
At the moment, there's only one thing that OLM actually does with that, which is there's a field that you can basically mark an operator as upgradable, true or false. That when that field is set to false for that operator install, the operator is basically saying, OLM, don't upgrade me right now because I'm in the middle of some important process. I'll let you know when I'm done, and then you can upgrade me to a newer version.
Mm-hmm. And
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that, you know, the introduction of this API, you know, it closer aligns OLM in a way that it can offer better management of the of the operators that it's managing the lifecycle of. This could very easily be extended to do other things. Basically, you know, you're just writing conditions to a status, and it allows us to, you know, currently OLM has to infer the state of an operator based on the status of different resources that are installed as part of that operator. And with this change, it allows the operator to provide much more clear communication about the state that it's actually in. So as we expand this feature, you know, if you choose to integrate with it, it should allow OLM to manage your operator better. And so it defaults to the existing behavior prior to the introduction of this resource. So if a condition is not named, it does not, you know, the absence of a condition signifies that one has an opt-in to it, so it won't change existing behavior.
Yeah, okay, so so it looks like there's no tie into OPM here at all. This is simply going to be your controller conditionally, if this API is available, it could detect that and then create the CRs, I guess, with the status, right?
So we can get, yeah, so right now OLM will automatically generate any of these for any CSV that isn't a copied CSV. So it will just exist. And then if your operator doesn't choose to opt in and update the status of it, obviously no conditions would be communicated then. So it would, you know, it wouldn't influence behavior, but should you choose to write to it, it will.
Yeah, the reason I'm just asking because as we build operators, they run on 4.5, 4.6, 4.7 of OCP, you know, multiple versions of OLM. So we want to try to conditionally use features as they become available, right? In a single code base rather than having to fork it. And so this is one of those that I think we could use without forking.
Yeah, basically you just need to query to see if the API is there.
Yep.
And if it is, go find the CR and update the status.
Perfect. Yep.
Yes, and the SDK is implementing a library to actually help you do that, right? So I will append all those notes to this feature request, just so if anybody is looking at this, they can immediately find all the related documents. And you know, behind the scenes, basically all we're doing is we generate the resource, we make sure your service account has the permission to write. Basically any service account defined in the CSV right now gets the permission to write to this resource. And then we also update the deployment so that they have a name of the operator condition, and then the library will simply take that information, and when you write update calls to the status, it handles it.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Cool. Yeah. So given that, any objections to closing this issue as completed?
No, that sounds fine to me.
Okay.
I'll just comment with all those links on it afterwards.
Okay. And so then there's only one other thing. So like I said, the 120 bump is still in progress. I think we need to merge that before we do 0.18 release. The only other issue that is labeled as 0.18.0, which is this provide procedure for hotfixing an operator. I think the last time we talked about this, we landed on this feature sort of exists now. It's just not well documented. And that what we needed to do was just publish a doc. And then there's also a PR to add an E2E test case. So I sort of dropped the ball on this and didn't follow up. The PR looks like it's good to go and ready to merge. So I think we're going to try to merge that one as soon as we can. And then we just need to create that doc. Otherwise, I think that we should leave this one in unless somebody has some objections. So we should just finish up that work before we cut a 0.18 release.
That'd be great.
Cool. Okay. So that's it for OLM. On the operator registry side, if we take a look at the registry, I don't have some very good answers for anything. The only thing we had tagged for 115 for OPM was declarative config, which as far as I know, nobody in the development of the operator registry has actually implemented yet. There's still an open enhancement for this guy. So I'm going to move this one out to a 0.16 release. Because otherwise 116 release, because otherwise 115 is basically just going to be bug fixes.
Yeah, because I think 115, I think actually quite a few features kind of snuck in over the past several weeks. But they're not in milestones, so I always have to look at the PRs to see what was in there.
So as far as I know, anything we've added is just bug fixes. So I don't know that there's anything explicitly like a feature that has been merged.
Yeah, I guess they feel like features because they're big. So like the list bundle stuff, I know that was a biggie. Fixing all the December skip patch stuff was a biggie for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
big fixes. I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we're just sort of looking at those as, stuff that fixes current implementation as opposed to net new features, which I think is kind of what we're trying to discuss here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, the only other thing I would like to discuss, and I know I've mentioned this probably a month ago, which is if I could go back to Operator Lifecycle Manager. So I do have this open PR that talks about our actual release process. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, maybe this is the wrong one. Hold on, let me just look at my open PRs. Okay, so yeah, this doc, if folks haven't had a chance to take a look at it, is basically a work in progress for how we decide to say, okay, we're ready. It's time to cut a release for our downstream or for our upstream projects. I would highly recommend that everybody on this call who's interested, please take a look. I think I'm basically getting to the point where if we don't have any obvious nits or anything like that, I'm just going to go and merge this. And this is the process that we're going to use going forward. But aside from that, I don't know that there's anything else that we needed to discuss ahead of the 0.18.0 release of OLM and the 1.16 release for the registry. All right, so that's all I had. Thanks, guys.
Great, thank you, Kevin. So I'm going to share my screen right now, and I'll take over. Share screen. All right, can everybody see the agenda doc? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to very quickly just grab that work in progress PR that Kevin had. So here we go. I'm just going to add this to the agenda so people can revisit it easily. And I also wanted to call out that Eric recently created a pull request against the API repo. Oops, that's not right. Here we go. And here you'll see Eric had expressed concern that like the patch releases were including the patch releases were including new APIs and everything. So he wanted to take a stab at defining a release process for the API repo. So please take a review at this when you have the time to do so. And finally, Chris asked Evan for an update on the 4 design proposals mentioned at the November 12th meeting. I didn't see the 3 remaining proposals. I believe the only one I had, I'll have to revisit to see what those 4 proposals were, but we do have a work in progress de-scoping plan that's now publicly available, which is linked in the agenda, and we can review it at a very high level now, and then you can dig into it, and if you create an account on HackMD, you'll be able to comment on this. But at a very high level, it has, it defines what a de-scoped operator and a scoped operator is. It defines why OLM introduced the notion of scoping operators and the complications that introduced under the problem section. I found this section to be very useful and probably where you'll want to focus given some of the conversations that we've had, where it defines how we would like to treat operators installed by OLM in the future, and then it specifically handles some of the caveats that we've discussed in this meeting, such as running multiple controllers on an API for that cluster. So right here we see only one controller pod needs to run for that API in a cluster. So that was certainly a conversation that we discussed earlier. So please review this list and comment if you feel like there is a need that you have that isn't encompassed in this section. And then it goes into what we hope to see after enacting this plan to de-scope operators. And then finally, there's a pretty large work in progress section down here that needs to be flushed out a bit further, but it very clearly shows how we need to have a transition plan for existing things that we support. And then we also recognize that there is a need for us to basically define a set of operator patterns that a operator author could view hopefully before starting their operator, and pick a model that works for the software that they want to develop, and then follow that pattern so that everything works seamlessly. Chris, I totally missed this 4 design proposals. What were the remaining 3 proposals that you wanted to discuss in this question?
I think it's all one design. If you just scroll down to the agenda from November 12th, there's a full 4 bullet points there. That's what I was calling out. So the 4 things that the design has to encompass. That's really what it is.
I see. Okay.
That's what I meant.
Okay. Okay, so I think that's certainly covered in the de-scoping plan, simply because there's I mean, sorry. We allude to the fact that we're going to have to cover that in the work in progress transition plan on the offboarding, right? And then, yeah, I don't know that we need to discuss this all right now, but we should certainly make sure that I can add a comment linking to this to make sure that we actually have all of these features outlined in the document. Does that sound good?
Yep, I just went ahead and communicated to all my peers. So we're going to jump on it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, please attack this document. We really value what you have to say, because you guys are using us at a very large scale, and like your insights are obviously going to be very beneficial to the project as a whole. So please attack this document and help us make OLM, bulletproof.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. On that note, I think that covers everything. So just to recap, we have the 0.18 release that we hope to release very shortly. And we still, the only item that's largely remaining is a bump to Q120, along with the issue that Kevin and Chris have been working on about, modify hotfixing CSVs on cluster. We then have the governance definition that Kevin created. We should really make sure that anybody who wants to help guide OLM, please review that PR, because we need your input so that we can define that process. Take a look at the API release schematic procedure that we're going to be following for the API repo, and jump on Evan's work in progress de-scoping operator enhancement. With that, I think that's everything we had on the agenda. Is there anything else we want to cover before we conclude?
I'm good. I really appreciate the overview and the work on that from everybody.
Oh, no problem. This is something we're all really passionate about, so it makes it easy. All right, with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to conclude the meeting. So thank you for attending today's meeting, and we will see you all next week. Reminder that we will be sending out a Wednesday email asking people to submit items to the agenda. If the agenda has no items on it Thursday morning, we will cancel the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks all.